first impressions count, so I'll start by apologising that your first impression of me as a proposer is one being read on a piece of paper by Abbie. There is nowhere I'd rather be right now than extolling Brogan's virtues to you in person. However, this has not been possible tonight. But I'll move on to my first impressions of Brogan. Before we'd even met, I'd heard nothing but positive feeling towards her. I'd often heard about the mysterious Brogan, saviour of many a teen toast and general keen bee, who no one had a bad word to say against. Safe to say, my first impressions were spot on, and when I met her in October, all my preconceptions were confirmed. Bouncy, bubbly, and an all-round great girl, Brogan was a stellar addition to the welfare team and is now a wonderful friend. Firstly, there has been her leadership of Tea and Toast, going above and beyond what we've asked of her. Brogan has been capable and dependable in her management of this welfare staple. She has been ingenious with her themed evenings and as well as practical, keeping everything stocked up and dealing with challenges of moving between the bar and ISM room. There's then her participation in welfare generally. Brogan consistently supplies thoughtful and creative ways to improve welfare across college, something I'm confident she'll build upon as welfare officer. She has always played an active part in the team planning, so the next logical step for her is to be the leader of these discussions. For example, the pancake event last week, Brogan took the reins, buying all the ingredients and ensuring it ran smoothly. I won't downplay the support of the team, but the way Brogan took charge gave a taste of how she could successfully be in a position of greater responsibility. Her ability to work as a team is also crucial for the role, requiring commitment to both the welfare team and the wider exec community. Finally, it's her support of me as a friend and assistant welfare officer this year that makes me confident in her abilities to support college as a whole. She understands the subtleties of being there for individuals as well as the wider college. Regardless of the outcome, I've been lucky to work with Brogan this year, and all I hope is that she's given the opportunity to take the welfare team to new heights next year. Thank you.
Thank you. And Abbie's proposer, please.
Alright, so I've never done anything like this before, but here I go. So I stand before you all this evening because I've been duped into proposing Abbie Cole for our next welfare officer. I met Abbie at the Post Office Holders Open Day last spring, and we became mild acquaintances over a fateful evening, which included a handful of Hatfield pre-fresh, some 6-month-old white ace, and a hot tub. I have to say that it is that relationship which has made me acquiesce to Abbie's request. It's sort of a favour for old time's sake, to take my time out of my ridiculously busy schedule of drama and recreational drug use in order to lie about how great she'd be at this role. But after I sobered up and realised what I'd acquiesced to, which is doing this, I began to realise that there are quite a few great things about Abbie, which make her good at this. She'll be all good. I've stumbled into the godsend that is tea and toast numerous times and in numerous shapes. And there, in between the chocolate spread and the brown bed, is the immensely good-natured Abbie Cole, making sure everyone is as comfortable as a Hatfield or on Shropshire shoes. She is absolutely fantastic. She organises so well, and she comforts everyone, looks after everyone. She's so very well-meaning. She brings a degree of role. She brings to the role a degree of sass, which makes the environment of boot-stained black tie all the more entertaining. Abbie's assertive, vocal, and creative, and I strongly believe that these qualities translate well from the bedroom to the exec. She also tells me she volunteers often, which is really good. But seriously though, Abbie really cares for people, and there is no bigger indicator of this than going through the grueling nightline training, which is one of the most, it's one of the most altruistic parts of our Durham bubble. It's an incredible thing to get involved in, and in fact she did, and I know other people have. It's an incredible thing to do, and it really proves just what sort of person you are and how well suited you'd be to something like this. I don't think I've done her justice, but she'll do that herself if she gets your vote, which is exactly what I will do. Thank you.
Everyone needs a moment just to I'm now open to questions, and before I open questions to the floor, can I just remind everyone to just give me a moment to repeat the question for the sake of the camera before you guys start answering. Fab, over to Izzy.
Hi guys. So who's starting? No, I mean like I'm speaking.
Abbie.
Okay, Abbie. So, what would you understand to be the role of the welfare officer? How would you achieve this? And what should your key focus be, whether it's campaigns or drop-ins?
So I think that the role of the welfare officer is to supply welfare to every member of the JCR, be they lives in, lives out, and I would achieve this by running several campaigns. We have such a strong campaign scene this year that's just amazing, and I would keep this up. And I think that a great deal of our effort and attention goes towards making sure that everyone knows that no matter what concern they have, we will listen and we will try our best to help you out with it.
So I believe that the welfare officer definitely should be the first point of contact for any member of the JCR who's seeking any sort of welfare help. I think that's a really important thing, and that's not highlighted enough, that the welfare officer is actually here for you guys, and everything that we do is completely done because we want to help you guys out and make you feel as comfortable as possible. Obviously we have the amazing campaigns that we're doing this year, and we've got loads more to come, and I'd love to increase that because the campaign's great, everyone gets involved, but it'd be great to have weekly events as well, so we appeal to a wide range of people.
Okay, so go Brogan first. What would you do to include students who might not typically engage with welfare, particularly in campaigns, to ensure they know what welfare offers and how they can reach out to them?
Yeah, I think this is a really important point, and I think the best thing to do, especially with the new freshers coming in, is that they really have to be aware of the welfare officer and assistant welfare officer and what we can actually provide for them. I think it'd be a really good idea to go around during Freshers Week and introduce yourself personally so they know who you are and they can come to you if they have any suggestions or any events that they really want to do, because I know that campaigns are often big and they would include a formal and stuff like that, and people aren't necessarily into that. So to get like a wider perspective of what people want would be a really good idea.
I agree with Brogan because she's right. I think that it's important to understand that a lot of people can be intimidated by the welfare, sort of the I want to say hierarchy of the welfare team, even though there isn't one, but the idea that if there's the welfare officer and then the team, whereas that's not what it's like at all, we're all working together in a team, and I think that to make sure everyone is aware that we're all working together and that the campaigns can be directed to everyone, and hopefully this year there will be a lot more, there will be a lot broader. They've already grown, but we can just keep growing and growing to get everyone involved.
What's Brogan?
So obviously the role of welfare officer can be quite stressful and demanding at times. So how would you ensure? Okay, back to this up. How would you ensure that your own well-being is looked after in such a demanding role? And what would you do if you felt unable to deal? If you felt unable to deal with the situation for whatever reason?
Yeah, I recognise that it's a completely very, very stressful role, often taking up a lot of time and a lot of energy. But I know that with a strong team, there'll be people to listen to you, and that I know that anyone that joins the team and has such a high level of caring about people would be able to listen to you and be able to deal with your issues as well. And I think it's really important that everyone realises that the welfare team is human and they do often have times where they need to talk to someone else. So I think it's a really good idea that to have a strong team that can listen to you as well and take into account your issues as well as everyone else's.
Yeah, as Abbie said, I think it's definitely important to remember that the welfare officer is still human and that we will be going through our own stresses, and I think it's really important to have good time management and organisation skills and just create that balance between helping others and also maintaining your own welfare. I think it's really important when going through choosing the welfare team and especially the assistant welfare officer, that you choose the person who's right for you as well as right for the role. You wouldn't want to have someone who you didn't trust could take over the role if you're ability to be welfare officer was compromised.
Thank you. Similar to what you just touched on, so having been on the team for a year, you both obviously know the current structure and sort of how the team operates. So firstly, is there anything you think you would change about the team? And secondly, how would you go about selecting your team? Like, what qualities would you look for in your teammates?
Yes, as I just said, I would definitely look for people who are suited to the role as well as suited to yourself, and make sure that we're all on the same wavelength. As I said in my manifesto, the welfare team this year, we really are a big old family, and I don't know what I'd do without my Thursday nights in the ISM room during welfare meetings. But really, it is so important. The only thing I'd look to introduce was maybe a year abroad rep or an international rep. I know a lot of staff came up this year because Francesca was on a year abroad last year, and we definitely tried to introduce more welfare into people on a year abroad.
I can't echo Brogan enough. The team this year is so strong, and we all pull our weight. I would be quite selective in that I think everyone needs to be able to just push as hard as they can and bring to the table everything they can. And personally, I'd like to see someone who works a little bit closely with communities to look at inclusion and how welfare can directly appeal to that, because I feel like that could be something that is not overlooked as such, but maybe not as on the same level as campaigns or other roles in the team.
Thank you. What is the confidentiality policy that you would be operating under as the welfare officer?
Hatfield operate that we cannot guarantee complete confidentiality. If you come to us with something that is a danger to yourself or possibly to someone else, then we as the welfare team have an obligation to pass that on, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah, completely echoing what Abbie said. Obviously, we can't promise complete confidentiality. I think it's really important that we explain this to all the students, especially if they come to drop-ins and disclose information which we feel that we need to pass on to either Anthony, Eleanor or someone else in the college office. I think it's really important that that trust is maintained between you and the student, because they come to you because they trust you, and you don't want them to feel as if you're breaking that trust by going on and telling someone else. It's just for their own protection and for your own, and for the person.
Thank you. And then the last one from me, just a situation question. So, for example, so you're holding a drop-in hour and a student comes to you who's quite concerned about one of their friends who has been really withdrawn, not really getting involved, not really going to meals and things like that. How would you go about dealing with this situation?
I was first talk to the student and understand the complete problem. If I felt as if a student really was compromising their own health, I probably would explain that the information maybe need to be passed on to a hierarchy. But I would advise the student to maybe bring her friend in, and maybe we can talk through it together. Obviously, I don't want the girl to feel like she's going behind her friend's back, but it's all in the welfare of the student body as a whole, and the friend doesn't want to be feeling like all the pressure's on her.
I would talk to the student who had come in the first place to assess their welfare as well, because it's very important to look at how a problem can affect the person involved but also those around them. So I think it would be good to assess their welfare first, and then obviously I'd do what Brogan did. I would bring them in and possibly pass on information and make sure that the student knows that they are in a safe environment where they're not going to be judged, there's not going to be any judgment there, and that we will just do our best by them to see what we can do to help them.
How will you ensure that as well as your own, the welfare of other exec members is being looked after? And what would you do if a member of the exec is having a rough time and cannot complete their duties?
I think it's so important to, again, reiterate that exec members are human and that everyone has trouble, everyone has struggles that they go through. But I would definitely be able to say, be able to take in, look at what issues the welfare that the exec member is going through, and try and work through them with them, or at least be able to direct them to people who are maybe better suited to whatever problem they were facing, better suited than me.
Yeah, as Abbie said, obviously all the members of the exec are human, and especially on the exec role, you have a lot of responsibility, and this can often induce more stress and stuff like that. So I think it's completely natural for an exec member to actually be feeling like it's getting too much for them. And I think it's really useful as a welfare officer to sort of explain to the member of the exec that there are services out there which, I mean, we're completely free to go to. The counselling service is amazing at the university, and they welcome so many people into, for whatever reason. So yeah, to be able to advise them where to go.
So obviously you'd be sitting on Welfare and Employee and Diversity Committee in the Students' Union, working closely with the community officer over there. What do you see the relationship with the welfare team in Hatfield and the Students' Union being? How far would you want to depart from the kind of central campaigns that are run?
I think it's really important to take on board what the central campaigns are for the university, but also realise that maybe these campaigns aren't specifically towards Hatfield students, but definitely take them on as a broader and still really important campaigns. I know there's one out at the moment about alcohol awareness, and there was quite shocking statistics really. There was 29 cases of alcohol seizures in 1 hour at Gospel. And I think data like that, you know, you can't ignore, and we have to attack as a college as well as a university.
I think the relationship between the two roles is very important. I think that you need to be able to support your community's officer in everything they do, and sort of be able to understand that the welfare might need to be slightly tailored to the different role. But I feel like the campaigns that the Students' Union put out are great, but possibly they need to be tailored to Hatfield's demand, what Hatfield needs to listen to, because some things may be overlooked by the students by no fault of the Students' Union, but instead could be changed slightly just to make sure it really sinks in.
We've already touched a bit on the idea of welfare connecting with year abroaders. What sort of thing do you think you'd be able to do in order to help people feel maybe even a little bit connected to Hatfield while they're away?
So how would you work to make your boarders feel more included and connected to Hatfield from a welfare perspective?
This year in the welfare team we had an idea of doing letters to livers abroad with the idea of keeping them included, because there was a mention that a lot of people who are on a year abroad read the JCR email and love to still be involved. So I would investigate looking at that, trying to keep them as involved as possible, making sure they know that there is somewhere for them to come back to, and we are missing them desperately while they're away.
And to start with, I think it's really important to get in contact with the people who have been on a year abroad and see what their ideas are, what would help them, because you couldn't take it from your own personal experience if you haven't already done it. But I think, as I already said, I'd love to introduce a year abroad rep as part of the welfare team, and this rep will be in charge of sending out regular emails, and these aren't just general welfare emails, they're like specific to the year abroad people. And maybe there can be nice messages from college staff, just giving that little bit of extra support, especially during Christmas time and stuff like that.
Yep, Hamza?
It's important that welfare tackles issues affecting Hatfield's diversity and belonging. In this climate, how do you ensure that welfare attracts a balance of male and female reps, as this year we have very few male reps?
So how do you make sure the welfare team attracts a balance of male and female reps, seeing as the current low representation of males in the team?
I actually think this year, with Hamza, Gaspard and Joe on the team, it's been a really, really great influence on the team. Hamza loves the social media, and everyone knows about Hamza and his 12 days of wellness and everything else that he does for welfare. And I think it's really important that we integrate more male-focused activities and events. I know we were talking about potentially we have boxing, we were potentially getting other sports in, especially appeal towards the male market, and maybe like water fights, which is fun.
I think maybe problem with the welfare team is that it has a very female stigma attached to it. It's sort of seen as this thing that girls run and that girls go to and that sort of thing, when really it's for everyone, no matter what gender or what you identify as. And I think that to get more like males in, we would need to break down the stigma. I think Brogan's idea of water fight is great. I think that would really work. But also by making it very clear that we're not just sitting here gossiping, we really are trying to make a difference, and we need the voices of guys to help us do that.
Yeah, Dan?
So obviously, like the communities officer looks after the LGBTA and the international mature students, but what would you do to make sure that welfare provision is accessible to all minority communities?
I would look to have awareness months, so Black History Month, LGBTQ plus months, that sort of thing, making sure that everyone knows that they are valued in our community and they are valued by welfare, to make sure that this is something that we can be proud of, we can be proud of our inclusiveness, and that would obviously run very closely with communities. Yeah, I'm not supposed to say that.
Yeah, as Abbie was saying, it's really important to work closely with the communities rep to ensure we get that awareness about LGBT, more mental health issues and sexual consent and stuff like that, which I know the communities work a lot on. It'd also be good to work with VP discipline, because I know there's a bit going around at the moment about formal inclusions and stuff like that, and I definitely want to work with them to make sure that everyone who wanted to attend formals and make sure every event in Hatfield was accessible to everyone, regardless of disability or as a problem.
What are your thoughts about introducing compulsory consent workshops?
So, what are your thoughts about introducing compulsory consent workshops?
I actually think it's a brilliant idea, especially for the exec, because we are essentially the face of college and all our actions have to be reflected in formals and stuff like that, and we're a big part of all that. So I think it would be a really good thing to have, and I can't see anything that would be particularly.
I agree with Brogan. The idea of compulsory consent workshops aren't suggesting that we think that you need to know what consent is. I think it's just making everyone aware of the different lines and how easy it is for someone to take things too far and to make sure that everyone takes sort of responsibility for their actions. It's not suggesting anything bad about college, it's actually saying that we care as a whole about what we want to do and how we want to be perceived by our actions.
Any more questions? Ooh, well, there's a question. Oh, no, there's one out the back. I can't see. Is it more chicken? Yeah.
I guess Freshers Week is quite a strenuous time for both preps and freshers. How would you make that accessible to everyone? How would you make welfare accessible to everyone as soon as people arrive at college?
Okay, so how would you make welfare accessible to everyone as soon as they arrive at college in Freshers Week or not?
I would like to give preps sort of like a basic welfare training idea of how to deal with people who go to clinic for the first time and they get very drunk and they don't know where they are and they want to go home. I think that it would be important so that everyone that the freshers interact with at least have an idea of welfare, how it runs, how it works, and they're able to direct them maybe in a more senior direction, but at least give them like a chance to understand what welfare is and how we run.
Yeah, I totally agree with Abbie. We definitely want to introduce something like threat training, just very basic skills, just so you know how to handle people on nights out when they come to you and they've got problems. Obviously, for freshers, it can be a really, really stressful time. They've just moved away, and there's all these things going on. I remember being extremely tired and grumpy a lot of the time, getting up at 6 o'clock, 6:30 in the morning. I think it's really important that you introduce yourself to all the freshers, maybe go around to their rooms, see how they're doing, see how they're finding Freshers Week, and offer supplies to them there and then.
Any more questions? Oh, jokes. Yes, he has 2 more.
So
As the restructure of the exec has been mentioned, the role of the assistant welfare officer was reintroduced last year. How do you see yourself working with your own assistant, ensuring that you're seen as equal in terms of the welfare team?
Yeah, so as I was just explaining, I thought it'd be a really great idea to go around during Freshers Week, go to people's rooms, make sure they're doing okay, and this would be really great to do with the assistant welfare officer, because I think it's really important to introduce yourself as a team rather than one side and the other. I mean, it's completely equal, and I think the members of the JCR and the special freshers should know that you can go to either of us and be able to get the help that you need, and it's not just one or the other, or a special welfare officer.
I completely agree with Brogan. Welfare is a team, and it's always going to be a team. So you need to make it very clear that it's not a hierarchy. So I agree with Brogan. Maybe introducing yourself as yourself and the assistant, and make sure it's very clear that you work together. She doesn't work like they don't work for you. You work together.
And then the last one for me. What would you do if a student contacted you directly late at night asking to see you? What do you see as your responsibility in such a situation, and how do you see your role playing out here?
I think the welfare officer's responsibility is to be the first point of contact for any member of the JCR who needs welfare at that moment. So if I'm at all able to assess the situation, maybe understand what it is they need, what it is they need to talk to you about, and then take the relevant steps from there. Because it could just be that they need to just have a late night chat because they're not feeling too great about something, or it could be an actual, maybe like a medical emergency or something like that, and then you would react to it. But I think that everything is dependent on the situation itself.
Yeah, I think if someone calls you late at night, depending on the time, I think the first thing to do is definitely get in contact with the on-duty welfare person, because I think they run 24/7, whereas we're not actually expected as welfare officers to be available 24/7, because there's some stuff which, I mean, we're only human as well. We need our welfare break, and we're available at certain times, and we're not necessarily there for 24/7. I think it's really important to assess the situation and see how much of an emergency it is, and obviously give as much advice as you can and work with it.
I think there's a possible inevitability of being the only member of the exec, only welfare member of the exec, that you're going to be the most recognisable face for the welfare team, particularly for the fresher community, and that might have an impact on the amount of people who come to choose you as the person to go to for welfare advice and support. So the question there is, what would you do to ensure that you're not simply swamped by messages and texts wanting support, and that your senior welfare team in particular is used?
Well, as I was explaining, I'd love to introduce myself, not only as a welfare officer, but me with my team, especially with my assistant welfare officer. So there's definitely automatically two of us to go to. I actually, during Freshers Week, I want to include like a little key ring that we get with our fobs. Our fobs and like lanyards and like. And this will have like details of all your senior reps for that year, and all necessary Facebook details and drop-in hours available, just so it's available there, and then when you get your key, and it's not just like you see the person, that's the only person that you can go to.
I think that's a really good idea from Brogan. I'd like to, during the Freshers Week, I'd like to allocate sort of like a senior welfare member, like myself, the welfare officer, and the assistant welfare officer, to a certain staircase. So maybe like A through to C would be one rep, and that means that they then have their own sort of person to go to, someone that they can feel connected to in a certain way, and it not all just falling onto one person who just happens to be seeing the most. I think that would probably work best, and it would probably be fairer in terms of the workload.
Oh, yep, Sam.
Comment. I've been on the welfare team this year. You're aware that the welfare team has a budget. Is there any areas that you feel like you'd like to invest in that would be a good area?
I think the way the budget's spent at the moment is really, really good. I feel like we manage ourselves well, and that we seem to have a lot of bases covered. I do have the idea of finding some sort of, like, when we finally get a room for tea and toast, I'm going to go on our tea and toast because this is my jam. So I feel like somewhere that we can actually put tea and toast, and somewhere that we can have somewhere accessible. Somewhere that we make it accessible, and somewhere that we could maybe pour a little bit of money into, maybe have some sort of place that is like the welfare room at sort of deep, but like somewhere that is a bit more accessible, somewhere we can all go to.
Yeah, so 2 key points from my manifesto. I really wanted to increase the amount of welfare events that were included in Freshers Week. I'd like to put a lot of the budget into that, because I think Freshers Week is really important because it creates that first trust between you and the students, and I think more information and more events need to be put out in that week, and just more accessibility in general. I really wanted to look into, with the help of the facilities officer, in creating a room which was open during Easter term and summative season, which was like a de-stress room. Unlike the welfare room, it'd be open for longer hours and have
We recognise as part of the welfare team, junior or senior results of people approaching issues. How do you ensure that your junior reps don't find themselves out there dealing with those problems?
So how do you ensure that your junior reps don't find themselves out of their depth dealing with other people's issues? Yeah.
When taking on the team, I would definitely encourage, if the junior reps had any problems, to talk to the seniors or talk to the welfare officer, assistant welfare officer, because they shouldn't take, if they really are struggling with a student, maybe they're coming up to them, it's not actually their responsibility to take on that pressure. We hold drop-in hours, and these are run by the senior welfares, and that's the place really where most of the problems are dealt with, and the junior rep should feel reliable, responsible customer to take on that.
Yeah, I agree with Brogan. It's mostly senior welfare members that should be dealing with this problem, but I feel like I would make it very clear in meetings where we could take their problems, if someone has confided in them, where they could go, who they could tell, who they could make sure the problem was dealt with, rather than them sort of feeling very, very alone in dealing with a problem that they haven't necessarily been trained for and don't quite understand how to deal with.
Yeah.
Following the EGM and the motion passed in like a 6-week, 17-month office to allow, do you think looking out to college will affect your performance of the role? If so, how do you plan to overcome it?
So do you think looking out will affect the performance in the role, and how are you going to overcome these problems?
I personally don't think it will affect the way the role is carried out, because I think there's now a level of commitment. You have to make sure that you are in college at a large amount of time to make sure that you are on hand to deal with anything. I feel like there's a big responsibility now put on our shoulders to deal with it, to get in on our own time, to make sure that it's done. But I can understand that there could be problems, and I think the way to rectify that would be to make sure that you have a rigid timescale, that you make sure that you manage your time well, and understand that you have a commitment to this college and you have it for the whole year.
Yeah, I definitely think time management and organisation is going to be key to making sure, if I live out, that I'm here enough for the students, especially the freshers, and your senior round in college. I love being in college, proven by my second year living here already, being a second year. And I really do use every part of college. I'm constantly in the bar, or the library, or the reading room, and I pretty much spent my life there anyway, so I don't actually think that would be much of a problem, but it's really important to consider as a liberal.
Any more questions? Alrighty. I'd now like to ask, I'll go, who proposed first? So we'll go Abbie first. It was 1 minute of why we should go for you.
I'm going to be really cliche now. When I joined welfare, I gained so much. I gained responsibility, I gained skills, and I also gained a great deal of friendship from a lot of members of the team, especially this one behind me, who's I'm now going to reach out for. I have gained so much in this college, and I just want to give back. I want to lead the team to be stronger, to be better, to be more inclusive. I want to make sure that everyone understands that we are here for you and we will listen to you, and there's not a problem that is too small or too embarrassing. No one has any idea what we're doing, but we try our best, and welfare is here to make sure that you know that whatever you're doing, you are doing it right.
So the real question is, why should you vote for me as your welfare officer? Well, really quite simply, I don't think you could find anyone more enthusiastic and more dedicated to the welfare team, apart from Abbie. I truly believe that welfare in college is such an essential system, and it really does hold the entire Hatfield community together. It brings everyone from college into this little bubble of welfare, and I really understand that, and I really want to increase that and increase the awareness, increase the participation. Whether if you just come along to welfare just to get free pancake, that's fine. Or you're drunk and you need some tea and toast, like Lara, almost every Friday. It's fine, because everyone just loves the little things that welfare does. Even if you don't realise it, we do it all for you. We're not there to get anything back from it. Yes, I really want to make welfare an amazing part of Hatfield and make everyone have a great experience in college, because that's the key point. It's about everyone, it's about you, it's about us.